Okay, so this is my first live stream. I've not done this before. I'm just thinking about what to talk about here. I'm at my sister's house and I've been meaning to do this for a few days, but I have been pretty busy with family during this COVID-19 crisis that's going on. Um, so I thought that I would share some thoughts on things that I'm passionate about because I do find it difficult to kind of plan out what to talk about. And I thought it'd be easiest if I just have it as kind of like a conversation. That's something that I've learned with the pretending that I'm talking to someone. So that is what I'm going to do here. And um, I couldn't find like the best environment to do this. It's a bit raining, so I'm just inside. The lighting is not optimal, but as long as I'm doing it, I think I'm really just doing this a lot for my own personal development. And that brings me to the topic which I wanted to talk about, which is development, specifically the development of people through the various stages of life and how we could improve it, how we could look at, what is really important in the development of someone and with the education of people as well. Because that is something that I'm really interested in is how we can improve the rate at which someone becomes very effective in life and able to contribute more value within any environment that they go into. So, yeah, the first thing I wanted to talk about is environment and how environment is really one of the biggest factors affecting the development of someone because if you put somebody into what I mean by environment is the people. So if you put someone in a specific environment with certain people, they're going to pick up the values and the culture that is going to shape their behavior. So if you want to help develop someone, the first thing to consider is the environment that you put them into. That if you have two identical people and you put them into two different environments, they're going to be shaped differently. And it's actually really interesting because if you've heard of a stem cell is kind of like an undifferentiated cell that can become different types of cells. And I think it is the stem cell, but if you put it with certain tissues, it'll turn into that type of tissue if you put it with it. So, for example, if you put it next to the skin tissue or something, it will become skin tissue. If you put it next to a different type, it'll become like that. And people are kind of like that. If you put someone with a certain group of people, they'll just become like them naturally. And people do vary in how much they are affected by their environment. Some people are more able to resist the social um, effects within the environment to become more independent, and they tend to be more. Sometimes they can be leaders, sometimes they can be not. Like they can just be rebellious against it, but um, generally, most people will be shaped by the environment and the values, etc. But another interesting thing about when you have a group of people is that they're if you have a group of people, they will develop certain qualities that balance the group. So what I mean by that is you'll naturally have a change. If you have two people, you'll have one person that will take on like more logical, um, take on more strengths and logic, and the other person will take on more emotion. Like this is what happens in groups, but you'll see in a family dynamic as well. You'll see this in a family. So if you have parents and children, the children will be very different from each other, and so are the parents. But within that group, they create a balance to fulfill what is needed to survive, basically. So also in the society, you'll have um, you'll have this differentiation to fulfill all of these needs of the group. So, for example, in a larger society, you'll have people that develop certain specialized skills that they can perform and add value within areas that are needed by the whole of society. And it's like the body. If you look at the body, you have the different organs, and the function of the organs is to help the whole body. So, for example, you have the heart; it's for circulation. You have the digestive system; it's for transforming food into energy, and for excretion of waste, etc. But the same thing happens in societies and groups. So you'll have this differentiation of functions, but they'll all be to benefit the whole. So all of the organs, all of the tissues, they all benefit the whole body. And then within the body, you'll have different hierarchical systems as well. So you'll have, for example, if you look at the brain, it's separated into three major different parts, and you have like the lizard brain all the way up to the most evolved part of the brain. And it's really that most evolved part of the brain that really all of the body is helping to fulfill its desires, basically. Although sometimes we do go into the more lizard brain and these this area, but that is like we as we evolve, we develop like more complexity and how can I explain it? The higher parts of the brain are able to manage and govern over the rest of the body, but the body is there to fulfill the purpose of the more evolved parts. So, for example, in the brain we have the telencephalon. It's a part of the frontal, um, yeah, the frontal lobe. I can't remember the names at the moment, but basically, like this is an area that's really evolved for setting an intention and going towards a vision and planning out something that where you want to get to. So we've evolved to the point where we can imagine a world with our mind, and we can move towards it, and the entire body will shape itself and act in such a way to help fulfill that. It's kind of hard to explain it. I'm still trying to understand it, but yeah, basically, the body has uh, the body has this hierarchical system, but also a everything is working together with the different systems. So you have the different organ systems, and the fascinating thing is that this is at not just within the body; it's within society as well. And um, if you are to as someone goes through different levels of development, it's similar to the way the body has evolved through these different levels of evolution to the point where we have developed that frontal, that the neocortex, the newer part of the brain that allows us to plan out things. And so as when we're young, we're kind of like we have those emotional reactions to things. But as we develop, the way that I look at it is the reason why I'm so interested in leadership, in education and development, is because it's the same in the body. You'll see that the frontal lobe is kind of leading the whole body. So it's kind of like as we evolve towards these higher levels of evolution or ability to contribute value and be in society, the natural progression is towards um, being a person that can plan, that can have a vision and create that vision with other people. Um, yeah, so that's how I look at it. Is I always consider what is the relationship between uh, when I think about development, I always look at, okay, how does nature naturally have that development? How do things happen naturally? Because the natural process is the most efficient and the most effective, and it's also if we model our education systems, after the way nature, after the way the systems of nature naturally do it already, it's going to be the most optimal. Um, yeah, so I'm still trying to explore that idea, and it's kind of a big topic. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of, I didn't know what I was going to say on this live, and I do get like quite a bit of anxiety presenting myself, so that's something that I'm working on getting over. And the thing with anxiety is that it stops your ability to think clearly. So I can't really access the things that I would naturally want to talk about because it triggers, the amygdala response, which means that so the blood goes away from my head and into my body, into my muscles. So it's difficult to think, but um, yeah. So I'm trying to think of what else I could talk about with education and development. I think that people just aren't as aware of how important like modeling nature is for any sort of. It's not just for education; it's for everything. Like even if you look at um, a business has different areas. You have different functions, and everything is like you can if you look in different areas. If you look at how the body works, and you take that and you apply it to business, it's the same. If you take that, you apply it to education. It's like there's these patterns of um, like nature has these patterns of the way that structures evolve because that's like the optimum. That's the It's kind of like moving towards the perfection of what's possible is is the natural way. So that's why I look at it that way. Although we can stray a little bit away from nature, but generally it is the it's just how it's just the best way to model um, anything that we create. So I'll end it there because I can't really think anymore. But at least I made this live, and if anyone actually sees this,